APs is a complicated topic to talk about, right? Unlike the SAT or the ACT, which is a very simple test which can be taken with a very simple purpose in mind, which is to apply to colleges abroad. APs can be taken for a multitude of purposes. This is the first thing that students need to understand. And welcome everyone, all the participants, all the students and parents and counselors here. I'll encourage all of you to keep writing your questions onto the Q&A box, and I'll try to take up as many of them as I can towards the end of this session. So to this opening session, I'll just try to give all of you a very, outside and look into the APs so that all of us can understand the tests better. What are we doing them for? What is the entire purpose? And other things that we need to know about these tests, which are kind of different from the other standardized tests that we come across. So APs, as we all know, are published by the College Board. They're given by the College Board, which is the same organization that also offers the SAT. It's a not-for-profit company in the US. It is not a government body. But then advanced placement examinations or courses are widely recognized across the US and elsewhere across the globe as well, including the UK. So the first thing about these tests is that they can be taken for a variety of purposes, right? So the first of these purposes, if you go to the College Board website, and they have a beautiful website, which is called as an AP student website that everybody can Google. It has truckloads of information. If you Google it and you look at one of the primary purposes why you should take the APs is given out as college credits. That's true. So every time you take an AP and you score a 4 or a 5 on a grade of 5, of course, that's how the APs are graded on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. The respective colleges, when you join them, they'll be able to give you credits against that. Now, how does this work? Let's say I'm applying for an engineering program, which requires me to study calculus as my first year study. And let's say I've done a calculus BC and obtained a 5 in there. Then I'll not be required to study this calculus as a part of my first semester curriculum. They'll simply take your AP scores and they'll substitute in place of your calculus 101, which is the subject that all your classmates would be taking. So this is the published purpose in terms of taking an AP exam. Now, different colleges would give you credits against different APs depending upon the stream that you choose, depending upon what you've scored. So all those details are available on the College Board website. You can look them up. Well, getting credits may not be the only purpose that students look at. Again, credits might be used for different purposes. One of them could be, looking at a lesser workload in your first couple of semesters. That gives you an edge because you'll be moving out to a new country, a new locale, a new environment. So it helps you settle down. It always helps you if you've got a little less workload. That's one. Second purpose that students can put the APs to, that you take lots of APs. And by the time you, and APs, you can take them anytime. That's the beauty of these exams. You can take them as early as grade 9. And you can take them as late as probably second or third year of your college. So if you have accumulated adequate APs to give you credits equal to 1 semester of study, that means you would end up completing your undergrad program, not in 4 years, but in 3.5 years. What does that mean? It means you get into the workforce 6 months up early. Also, you save on 6 months of college fees. That would be a lot, and 6 months of living expenses. Another reason why people choose to go in for the APs is that it gives them an edge over other students in their college life. For example, I wanted to do the calculus 101, which is what everybody has to do, but I've done the calculus BCAP, which means I start not with calc 101, I start with calc 301. Now, when I start with calc 301, I have an advantage over the rest of my classmates in terms of my ability to select courses, select professors. So this is one box why people might want to take the APs. Another reason why they might want to take the APs is to prove academic equivalence. Now, when I talk about academic equivalence, students from a variety of academic systems across the globe, they apply to US colleges. It's very, very difficult for a US admission officer to know how the education standards in the US would compare with those of a particular, let's say, state board in India. And then they can't go and establish the equivalence every time around. So one way to prove your equivalence is to take the APs. It's your way of showing that, yes, I'm ready, I'm capable of studying the way Americans like to teach. This is one of the reasons. For this reason, anybody who's doing an IB or who's doing their A levels may not be required to take the APs. But if you're doing an ISC or a CBSC or a state board, it would be imperative that you take the APs. A third reason why students take the APs is to build a competitive application profile. To show academically, I've set additional challenges for myself and I'm capable of achieving those. A beautiful tool to do that was the erstwhile subject SATs, which have now been withdrawn and are no longer offered. So the only way if I want to show something extra academically on my profile is to do a couple of APs. Another reason to do the APs is to show diversity on your application profile. Why diversity? Americans actually value it, right? For example, those of us who go and study the IB curriculum, you're always forced to take some of the sciences, some humanities, some business subjects. That's how they build up a very, very balanced diploma for you. But if I'm doing CBSC and I want to opt for commerce, it'll be none of the humanities, none of the science subjects. So it makes excellent sense for you to look at maybe one humanities AP, one science AP, and see, if you can bring your own application at par with the rest. Similarly, if you're doing an irregular diploma, which is science heavy, it makes sense to do APs in a couple of humanities subjects that lends a lot of balance, to your academic profile. Fortunately, unfortunately, the way we would assess your capabilities in India and the way we would assess them in the US is very different, right? I'm doing physics, chemistry, math, HL. All this is left brain. What about your right brain? Because my diploma or my grade 11, 12 does not offer me opportunity to study these subjects, there is no way I can show that capability. Taking the AP is a very good way of showing, see, I have the capability, I have the inclination towards these subjects as well. So what I choose to study at my school is because of different reasons, because there are only limited options available and no more. I can always balance it up. When you're doing A levels, for example, A levels, you study 4 subjects, IB, you study 6. So how do I equalize? How do I equate myself? Opt for 2 APs. So this one more way to look at the APs. Another way to look at the APs is when you want to have an early start, a head start towards your college application. You'd find a lot of people suggesting take PSAT. I would very strongly advise against taking PSAT. The test serves no purpose. You can't report those scores anywhere. Also, having worked in the standardized test prep domain for so long and with so many students, I can tell you SAT is a test where early start would always have a disadvantage and not an advantage. SAT is an aptitude-based test. The prep can last only so long as no more. But if you want to have an early start in grade 9, grade 10, do an AP, do 1 AP in grade 9, do 2 APs in grade 10. That's going to benefit your application a lot. It's a clear message to the admission officer that I'm not planning to study in the US because everybody in my class is planning to do so. I want to do it this way. And I've been on it for the last 3-4 years. There's a very clear message that you send to the admission officers. So be careful about selecting the APs in this case, right? So these are some of the reasons why people take the APs. I've tried to cover as much as I could. What APs to take? That's again a very tricky question. What APs you want to take would depend upon why you're taking the AP. If you're taking the AP for a college credit, you must take these in the subjects that you plan to study at college. Because if you take APs in subjects that you're not going to be studying at college, who's going to give you credit against those? But the advantage here is if you want to take APs solely for the purpose of getting college credit, I may not necessarily take them in grade 10, grade 11. You can even take them at the end of grade 12. You can also take them at the end of your first year of college. And taking the same APs at a later stage might prove to be a very, very easy exercise for you. For example, I get lots of inquiries every year from 11th graders, CBSC, ISC. So I want to do calculus BC. And I very strongly discourage it. Why? Because it is going to take you 3 times as much effort to do it in grade 11 as compared to doing it at the end of grade 12. By the time you end your grade 12, you would have studied practically the entire curriculum of calculus BC, irrespective of what board you study at, what education system you study at. It will become very simple. So if I want to take a calculus BC just for the sake of getting college credits, it must be done at the end of grade 12, never at the end of grade 11. On the other hand, if I'm using these APs to build a competitive application profile or to show diversity on my application, any AP that you take at the end of grade 12 would come no good. Because by that time, your admissions would have been done and decided, right? So these APs would have to be taken at the end of grade 10, end of grade 11. Unfortunately, APs, unlike the SAT or the ACT, do not happen multiple times a year. They happen only once. In fact, they happen twice, but both the times they happen in May. So one administration, which is called as early administration or regular administration, is the first 2 weeks of May. And the second one, which we call as a late administration, is the third week of May. This is done to ensure that it doesn't clash with your school exams, and one of these administrations is always available. So you can't spread the APs out. You'll have to take them in May. So you should try and take the APs at the end of grade 10, end of grade 11. Don't try to take too many APs at a time. These are not easy exams. They'll take their own, pound of flesh from you in terms of the effort required. And what we typically recommend is about 70 to 80 hours of effort is what you need to give to one AP, other than the extremely tougher ones, which are calculus BC, which are AP US history, which we fondly call as APOSH. So other than that, most of these APs, 70 to 80 hours of effort should be really good for you to go through these. Start early for the AP. Start your AP planning early. So typically for an AP that you want to take in May, I find a lot of people approaching me in March. Abhinav, can be prepared for it. I tell them, I'm so sorry, it's too late. APs in the US are offered as courses, not to all students. So typically, for the top 15 to 20% of the students in a class, the tutors would recommend AP courses instead of regular school courses in 1, 2, 3, or 4 subjects. 4 APs are recommended only to a thorough topper, which kind of happens once in 3 years. Otherwise, 3 APs is considered to be the max that you should take. Out here, alongside my full course load, I plan to take 4 APs. It's not going to happen, right? So coming back, what APs to take? If you want to show academic equivalence for yourselves, you should be taking APs in the subjects that you're studying at school. If you want to put diversity on your profile, you should be doing APs in the subjects that you're not studying at school. Are these two not contradictory? Yes, they are. But if you chase the second one, the first one is automatically proved. For example, I am studying economics at school. I want to take an AP in economics to show my academic equivalence, but I have a deficit of math on my profile. I wanted to show something in math, so I choose to take AP statistics. When you do AP statistics, you show that I can study your statistics, pass your exams. Obviously, I can study your economics, which is what I'm studying already. So my advice always is that if you choose to invest additional time, energy, effort, I might as well use it towards learning something new and not doing the same thing over and over again. That doesn't make sense to me. It also shows, how wise I've been in terms of choosing what I want to do with the time available, which is something all of you are going to be extremely short of for your grades 11 and 12. There are always too many things on your plate to do as compared to, what you have. So choose your APs wisely. Don't do too many. Maybe 2 APs a year for if you happen outside your curriculum, I think is the max that you should be looking at. Nothing more than that. Second, please start early. Third, be very clear as to what is your purpose in taking an AP. With what purpose do you want to take the AP? And accordingly, sit down and decide on what APs you want to take. You might consult someone like the Next Genius Foundation, like us, to rectify your AP choices for you, and start early. That's the most important thing. What are the easier APs? What are the tougher APs? That's one question often put to me. The tough APs, in my opinion, are certainly calculus. It takes a lot of effort. AP US history is an extremely difficult AP to do. You must have a natural love for history and you must be a slugger to be able to do that. Studying history for a US exam is going to be very different from the way you study history for an Indian exam. They're worlds apart. So what are the easier APs? I've normally found EVS, environmental studies, to be quite easy. Microeconomics, psychology, human geography. That's my list of easy APs. Science APs, Chem is a very difficult AP to take. Chemistry, I mean, if you're doing a CBSE, ICSC, please don't attempt the chem. It's going to be a completely different world, completely new world for you. Physics, there are 4 APs in physics. You should look at the physics C APs only, not the physics 1 and physics 2. And they're really manageable. They're not very difficult APs to do. I mean, as in they're kind of difficult to prepare, but like easy to score. So I've seen even above average kids getting easily with a 5 and a physics C mechanics. Between micro, macro, if you're taking it at the end of grade 11, please choose micro. Macro would be a little difficult at that stage because for most curricula, most of the macro is covered in grade 12 and not in grade 11. If at all you have to take macro for a credit, take it at the end of grade 12. What APs can I take in early classes, grade 9, grade 10? Grade 9, grade 10, again, the easier ones. Don't chase the science APs at that stage. Choose the humanities APs. So choose a microeconomics, choose a psychology, human geography, environmental studies. These are the easily doable APs. Statistics is one AP which I very strongly recommend, because it kind of bridges the gap between the Indian system of education and the US system of education. That's one field of study that you're really going to miss when you land in the US. And they use statistics so extensively right from day one, more in terms of research studies, more in terms of hypothesis testing. This is stuff which is unknown to us, irrespective of the curriculum that we are studying in. You're doing IB, A-levels, even if you're doing a statistics, it would not have much of statistics. So AP statistics is something we should look at from utilitarian purposes. Sciences, biology is doable, takes a lot of time. Another AP that you can look at is a computer science A. That's a very simple AP to take. If you know Java, you don't need any prep for it. If you do not know Java, then just hire a Java tutor. Don't look for an AP tutor for a computer science A. You do not need an AP tutor. Start early, work on them like you work on your school subjects. So use the first 3-4 months, maybe time until the end of March at max to finish off the course syllabus. And then use April to do some rigorous testing. APs have a hybrid variety of questions. So they have the multiple choice type questions and they have the free response questions, which is what we know as subjective type questions. So learning how to write subjective type questions of the APs can be a bit of a challenge for us. But I mean, of course, you can learn it. It's not rocket science. It's a different world though. So start early, pace your prep well. I mean, if you need professional help, you can always approach people like us who offer courses for most APs in both the one-on-one dimension as well as a batch-based dimension. We offer courses for APs. And enjoy the AP prep. That's all I would say. I mean, it's something which you'll enjoy. It's a different world. I've always found these preps to be very, very meaningful, very, very helpful to most students. Be realistic in your goals. Choose your APs well. So what I can also tell you is that, you've been shared this link of a WhatsApp group that Devesh sir has shared with you. Please join that group. And if you want any personal advice on what APs you should be taking, just write on that group your full name, number one. Number two, your current class, what grade are you in, what school are you in, what curriculum that is. So I'm doing grade 11 CBSE, I'm doing grade 12 IBDP, and current subjects of study and your proposed, proposed undergraduate major. And I'll be able to advise 2 APs that you should be taking, right? Devesh sir, we can just maybe put these questions also on the WhatsApp group. I'll repeat again. Your name, your current grade and curriculum, what grade and what board are you studying in? Number 3, what subjects are you studying currently? And number 4, what undergraduate major you propose to going for. You may also add a list of 2 or 3 proposed APs that you think you want to take. So I'll be able to give you my comments as to what my recommendation for you is. Just write to that group only. Please do not write to my number personally. And I'll be glad to answer all those questions in the next 48 hours, certainly. So I think this is followed by a whole 2-day affair. So where tutors and experts on different APs would come and would give you a very, very brief rejoinder about the APs, the specific subject. Last time we did this AP festival, we had much longer sessions, but we found that it'd be better to make it crisp and limit it to 2 days so that most of you can attend most of these. So it'll give you a ringside view of what lies inside a particular AP, and we'll actively await your feedback on how you like this format. Of course, I mean, a 40-minute or an hour-long session also cannot be complete preparation by itself. So we'll give you a ringside view, what contents to use, what websites to use, where these dates are. One last thing which I would want to cover up before I take up your questions is registrations for the AP. Registrations for the AP typically happen in two rounds. One is the early deadlines, early rounds, which is now over, which normally gets over by about the 10th of November. This time around for Mumbai, it was until 15th of November, but now even that is closed. The second round should open anytime in the next 1 month, and that would last at least until the second week of February. It will just have a slightly higher fee, nothing else. It will just have a slightly higher fee. So you can register. It's a dual registration. It's a slightly complicated process. The best way to register is that you put in your Google bar, taking AP exams in India. And then it will open up a College Board link, which will have links to all these centers that conduct the AP. Click the center nearest to you. It will take you to the micro page of that particular school where you'll find all instructions. This registration is to be done twofold. One, you have to register at the College Board website, and then you register at the local school center also. And the fee is payable to local school, not to College Board for this. Right. And the fee would typically range from 12,000 to about 18,000 rupees per AP that you want to take. Last year, when we had the APs, you had a take at home online option. As of now, there is no such option available. It is, a simple paper and pencil based test. You walk into a center and you take the test. That is how the APs are scheduled.